Hello and welcome to another StarCraft 2 co-op video. Today we'll be looking at part 2 of Alarak's build orders. This guide will discuss his build order options on maps with contested Expos, Dead of Night, and Void Rifts. Shout out to Kimmel Pronger for requesting this video. If you would like to make a request, check out the membership link in the description. Before performing experiments for this video, I thought that Mountain Warfare was the only map where you can use Overcharge to fast expand. But after some in-depth research, I found out that you can Overcharge FE on 5 maps. Check out the links in the description to see how to fast expand on these maps. By fast expanding, you can pretty much use the same build order as you would on maps with rocks. If you haven't seen part 1, check it out in the description or here in the corner. Fast expanding isn't possible on Cradle because there are too many enemies. Spending 2 overcharges for 2 constructs and losing those pylons in the blast are things you don't want to be doing. Similarly, on Scythe of Amon, you need 2 overcharges to clear a sliver. If you need 2 charges, it's not a fast expo anymore. On these maps, and maps where there are mutators that force you to get an army before expanding, use this build order. This is the one I use, and I found out that Frost also uses the same one. With this build order, you can get a mothership by 335 if necessary. After saturating your main, you can continue making probes so that your expo will not be empty when it's done. I suggest changing the rally point so that you don't have to count the workers that you remove from your main minerals. The default hotkey is G, and you just point it to a spot that's in a safe place. And then when it's time to transfer the workers, you just control-click the F1 key or the idle worker key and then move them all to the natural. As for tech, you can go Robo, Twilight, or Mass Destroyers. If you're not massing destroyers, eventually get 6 gates while teching and then add more as needed. Now for Dead of Night. Alarak is good early on in Dead of Night because he can hold the first night on his own unless there are chokers. This is an old build that I used before. I haven't played Dead of Night with Alarak in a while, and this is the most recent one I found. With this build, I can get the mothership right at the beginning of Night 1. I couldn't find any Dead of Night guides by other players because many people dislike this map. Fortunately, I found a video by Derivative which features a very interesting choice on this map. He makes a macro nexus at the choke as part of, I guess, the wall to overcharge, and his reasoning is that it's basically paying 200 minerals for Chrono since it provides 2 pylons worth of supply. This first build delays gas to get more minerals since Alarak generally requires more minerals. This second build is better for solos as he explains in his video. I like the idea of keeping a Havoc in a War Prism. The Havoc will still provide the range buff while it's inside. Also, the War Prism can be overcharged for extra damage. As you can see in this comparison, my build is slightly worse because I had fewer than 14 probes on minerals for a short time in order to get gas sooner. However, that didn't even help me get more gas overall. You can try out Derivative's first build for yourself. Maybe that Nexus will end up being very valuable. His second build is better for general play, so use that as your default. Now let's get to Alarak against Void Rifts. I'll make a more detailed guide for Alarak against Void Rifts in the future. The build order is 12 gas, 12 gas. This means you get both gases before making a single probe. Saturate both of them as soon as possible. Get a pylon at 14 and stop at 20 probes. Move out with a probe at 1:55 to 2 minutes. Once the rifts are out, make a pylon with the 4 probe and overcharge it to clear a rift. At 2:35, make a mothership and head towards the other. If there are rifts that aren't near the probe, make the mothership at home to defend against trickles, then head towards a rift. The forward probe should also move towards the other rift, but don't get too close. If the time is before 250, you can make a pylon and overcharge it. However, if the rift wave has spawned, don't try to take it out until they pass. The mothership can teleport to the probe after taking out the first rift. Overcharge at home to defend the trickles. You can make a gate in the front and let it get hit a bit, then overcharge it. I don't have a specific build order after this because it would be hard to follow with all the stuff going on. Just focus on expanding and teching once the 220 rifts are dealt with. For the subsequent rifts, use the mothership to deal with them while Alarak stays back to defend the base. Alarak can be in a forward position to take out nearby rifts, but don't let any trickles pass by because you don't want to waste an overcharge or mothership teleport on 2 links. Now for some miscellaneous questions. When going Wrathwalkers, I sometimes see runs that only produce them out of one robo. Will there not be enough resources to make Wrathwalkers out of more than one robo consistently? I usually get 2 robos when I'm going mass Wrathwalkers. I make the second one after I get all the Wrathwalker upgrades. If you're mixing in Ascendants, you start with 1 and then make a second one later. Even with P1, you don't need a ton of Wrathwalkers as long as they stay alive. A lot of your gas will be spent on Ascendants, the usual 14 to 16 of them. You can add a second robo in the mid to late game. If you're only massing Wrathwalkers, then you can make 2 robos, but if you're making Ascendants, you won't have enough resources to make use of both robos until you're done getting Ascendants. What's a general gateway number benchmark for Alarak? It is 7 to 8. 7 to 8 should be enough if you have good macro. If you miss some cycles, you can go up to 10. If you're massing destroyers, you don't really need more than 4 or 5. If you're using structures to help wall, you use cyber cores in places that you know will definitely break, and gates in places where you want to block them or stall for a bit while you move your army over. That way you can use the gates for defense or stalling, and at the same time, you can also use them to produce more units if you need to. Are there any situations where you need Alarak's personal upgrades early? If so, how much does it affect your timings for other structures, research, etc.? I don't think there's a reason why you would ever rush that upgrade. It's not that great. I usually get the AoE upgrade first anyways when I get the Forge, but I don't rush the Forge. And that's because the majority of your damage comes from Alarak and Ascendant's spells, not the unit's damage. Get +1 weapons first if you're massing destroyers. You can also consider getting double Forge, especially against enemies like Mutas, Marines, or Hydras. That way you can keep upgrading weapons while getting Alarak's AoE. Later, you can upgrade shields and armor with the second Forge. I pretty much never get the extra push. It might be useful versus speed freaks or just die to buy extra time. Would you say that Alarak is more of a mineral heavy commander or a gas heavy commander? Definitely mineral heavy. However, you can't just focus on minerals early on because you need a lot of gas to research tech and get your giant ball of Ascendants. In the mid to late game, you'll start running low on minerals because Alarak and the Ascendants keep eating the supplicants. When you notice the drop, stop making new Ascendants and focus on making the existing ones stronger. Also, I don't put 4 workers on far gases because I'm not starved for gas, and by the time I actually need it, I will start floating gas anyways. I sometimes even take probes off gas to use them as replacement builder probes. Is there a niche reason or situation you might want to go for Chrono Boost Mastery? Pretty much never. SC2 Co-op says you can use 22 Overcharge 8 Chrono so that you can break all the rocks and have a bit of extra Chrono for whatever. However, Overcharge is just more useful throughout the game, so most players max it out. When going P3, can spending 400 for a delayed mothership be better when you want to tech up first? You want to delay the mothership for as long as you can because this allows you to get a better economy. Getting the mothership before you need it is, to an extent, just overkill. Alarak plus Overcharge should be enough to hold the early waves. You might need the mothership against Heroes from the Storm or Just Die, or Avenger. Those are 3 of the ones where you probably want the mothership to get some extra damage in. And that's all for this lesson. Help me out by dropping a like and subscribing if you want to learn more. Thanks to all the members who are supporting me. If you would like to learn more, check out the link in the description. And while you're here, why don't you check out the best Kerrigan build order that you're not doing? See you there!